Distribution is, in my estimation, one of the most important components of the film business. If you make a great movie and you can't get it distributed, then it's a shame because nobody's ever going to see it. Today, we're going to do a deep dive into distribution. If you want to be a successful indie filmmaker, you need to know a lot about not just the production of movies, but the business. We are going to tell you the truth and reality of what really happens in the indie film business. You want to know how the independent film business's distribution is working? Today's episode, we have a very special guest who is super involved in indie film distribution, and you're going to learn a lot. So today we have Clay Epstein. Welcome, Clay. I've known you for a while. Clay is president of Film Mode Entertainment, which is an international sales agent. And are you a distributor too, just a sales agent?
Mostly sales, but we do some distribution.
Okay, so we'll get into that. But also, you are the chair of the Independent Film and Television Alliance, and have been for a while, which kind of has the finger on the pulse of independent film. So
you'd think, yes.
Yes. So I want to start with that because, first of all, a lot of people don't know what that is. So why don't you tell us sort of what that organization does and how you're involved?
Nice to be here, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. I always appreciate seeing you.
Of course. IFTA, we could start with that. So I'm an elected chair. So IFTA, the Independent Film and Television Alliance, is a trade organization. And even though it's based here in Los Angeles, the members are from all over the world. And qualifications to be a member is a sales agent, an entity that's representing distribution rights for feature films or television. So we have members that are big and small. Some are one- and two-man companies, and some members like Lionsgate, for example, are obviously large publicly traded corporations, right? But not studios per se, right? It's more distribution in the independent sense, where distribution's not controlled worldwide by one studio corporation.
So is that how you qualify your members? Can they be a public company, for instance?
They can be a public company, yes, but they still have to have distribution, represent distribution rights, and be in that business of distribution outside of the studio system.
Okay,
right?
So if I'm a distributor at that level, say representing independent films, what would be the benefit for me being a member?
So we are the only trade organization that exists in the world that is for the independents, represents the independents, represents their interests, protects their interests. That's everywhere from copyright protection, copyright lobbying, not just here in the US, but also in Europe, Asia, and other parts of the world. And when I say lobbying, it means educating legislators in the EU, in parts of Asia, to understand what copyright infringement and piracy is. Because for many years, piracy has been one of the largest threats to our industry. That shifted. We have lots of other threats to our industry. It used to be just copyright.
Exactly.
But other legislation, right? So to have an entity and a trade org that is lobbying and educating legislators that's on your side and has your best interest at heart is invaluable. Because you have to remember the studios and other corporations in any industry has enormous lobbying groups out for their best interest. The independents are left there out in the wild, without a way to defend themselves. And so IFTA is the only trade org and the only organized entity that is out there protecting and educating and lobbying for the independents. So that's almost first and foremost. Probably the second strength and item that IFTA does that comes to mind are kind of legal definitions, which leads us to contracts in our world of distribution and licensing. And because the technology and the language, right, and the definitions of the tech, which can change and evolve every 6 months, right? And IFTA has its finger on the pulse of the new tech and the licensing and the definitions of that, because that all goes into contracts, right?
So would you publish sort of standard contracts that your members could use to do their deals?
Right, it's for the members. So there's a legal committee and there's lawyers at IFTA that get together and they study this and they come up with new language and legalese that is making sense and becomes industry recognized and accepted. And it not only becomes industry recognized within the independent space, but you see it bleed into the studio space as well.
Right.
Because the independents move fast. The perfect example is AI. There's all this new
I
technology.
was going to say, I don't want to hijack my own podcast.
AI is such a general word,
Yeah.
but let's just use it for AI companies wanting to use a feature film for learning process, right? And if they're going to license that from us, what's that tech? What is that license? What's the definition of that? What are they specifically licensing from you? So IFTA's already on top of that. Right. And the third, probably most important, is IFTA organizes and hosts the American film market. And that is the first and foremost premier independent trade show for independent filmmakers, sales agents, producers here in Los Angeles every November. So it's going to be this November at the Fairmont Century City. It's a huge event for everybody. I mean, it's a must-go-to event if you're an independent filmmaker, producer, sales agent.
Agreed.
Banker, lender, investor.
Yeah.
We like investors.
So you're bringing that back to Los Angeles, which
we had a trip to Vegas last year, which was a lot of fun.
I was there. I thought I didn't mind Vegas. But,
we're all a little hungover
still.
And we're bringing it back to LA.
Okay. So the two first things, the piracy thing, and, kind of just advocating for independence, and then on the legal side and that type of thing, this is stuff that indies probably can't do on their own because it's just not affordable, and it's better done in, as a collective.
Yeah, I mean, most of the independent members are smaller, boutique, mid-sized companies around the world, and we're busy making movies, and we're busy running our companies, and we're busy out there distributing films and marketing films.
Right.
And the cost to have in-house advocacy and in-house lawyers is cost prohibitive. And not only that, but you're powerful in numbers, right? You have leverage in numbers. Every other industry has a trade organization. When you think about realtors and I'm not going to start listing every industry out there, but they have trade org, right? It's part of being in an industry and a community. And I'm a strong believer of the community of independent filmmakers in general. That community is really important. And just by definition, by being independent, that's kind of a mindset. That's how you live your life as well. And that's what makes independent filmmakers probably so creative and such mavericks in how they make films of all budget sizes. Mm-hmm. But you still need that community to protect yourself and to move forward, go into the future with the right protection, the right education, the right advocacy.
Right. So just to clarify, so if say I was just a filmmaker, like a production company, but not in the distribution side of the business, dealing with distributors or agents, could I become a member?
You would not if you're just a producer.
Right.
We don't have, at the moment, it may change in the future. It's the board would have to come up with a new category of membership, which we've been discussing. It may happen. At the moment, the members are in the distribution space.
Right.
And it's really that it's not that we don't want producers. I would say most of our members are also producers. But if you're just a producer, an independent producer, definitely come to the AFM because there's enormous resources and panels and a whole production series of workshops, etc. But you may not qualify to be a producer at the moment. And again, it's not because we don't want that category. It's because we would have to go through a process to make sure we have services and to support that category, right?
Yeah, and right now maybe it doesn't focus on that aspect anyways, more distribution. Did you say you host the AFM or do you own the AFM, IFTA? Like, what's the relationship there?
Both, yeah. IFTA created the American film market either 79 or 1980. Before I was in the business, were you at the first one?
Not the first one, but the first one that I went to was at the Beverly Hilton Hotel.
Right.
So it was the first 5 years were there. So
yeah, I know it was at the Westwood Marquis for a while and the Beverly Hills Hotel, but I was not at the first one. 79, 80, 81, and it was a group of independent sales companies got together and created which was then called AFMA, the American Film Market Association.
I was going to say, is that the same thing? Because I remember it.
Yeah, it was called AFMA. And then they launched the AFM to bring all of their clients to Los Angeles. So yes, and the AFMA became IFTA 15 years ago. They changed the name to be more inclusive for our television-focused members,
right,
and more of an international member base because we're not just American. So now it's IFTA.
But clearly sort of American focused. It's the American film market. You're based here in LA and
the headquarters is here in LA.
Right,
yeah.
right. But what percentage of the members, say the distribution members, would be American?
I would probably say half are American and half are sprinkling of the rest of the world.
Oh, that's good. That's a nice mix.
We've been very, very focused on making sure our board represents the membership. So a lot of our board members are based outside of America.
That's great. Okay, well, that's a good segue into the business, into the distribution business. So you are a sales agent or a distributor with Film Mode. Can you just kind of give us...
I've been accused of worse, yes.
Give us some details there. How long have you been doing it, and kind of what is the focus of Film Mode?
Sure. I've been in the business for 26 years. I got out of film school in 1999. I went here at Cal State Northridge here in Los Angeles, studied film production, screenwriting, and a minor in Italian studies because I wanted to be the next Fellini.
Okay.
And I had a pretty good film education at Northridge, but it's more physical and less on the business, especially back then, because even though the independent distribution space was very strong, because we had the VHS, we had DVDs, that was a time it was very, very strong. If you weren't in it, you didn't know anything about it. So even our professors were kind of straining themselves to be able to explain it. Mm-hmm. But I had an internship at Morgan Creek, and Ace Ventura 2 had just come out. And my job was to organize materials for the international distributors for Ace Ventura 2. And I then learned about independent distribution, because even though Morgan Creek had a deal with Warner Brothers, they were still an independent company. Mm-hmm. They attended the AFM. I remember getting them ready to go to the Cannes Film Festival. So during my internship, I had this introduction to the world that I ended up giving my career.
But clearly, you went to film school with the intention of being a film producer.
Everyone goes to film school with the intention of being a filmmaker.
Correct, to making it. So you took an internship because it was probably available at the time. I don't know. And it worked out well because you got exposed to distribution, which a lot of filmmakers maybe never get exposed to.
Never. And then I got, my first job was at a company called Kushner Lock, which does not exist anymore, but it was a very large independent film production entity and distribution company. And I answered phones better than anyone else had ever answered phones before, which got me to a desk in the international sales department.
Okay, but still probably with the hope of someday transitioning to become
Absolutely. I was making my short film on the weekends in the office there.
Right. But then you basically transitioned and spent your whole career in distribution.
I still wanted to be a filmmaker at that time and was still spending all my money on it, but I was getting further and further into this world and starting to create my own network and understanding how it worked a little bit and the marketing of it. And my first AFM, I think, was in 2000. And I attended the AFM and organized my whole office's presence there. You know, I was still just out of film school and already kind of thrown into that world.
Yeah.
And then got a job at a company called First Look Media, which is also no longer in business.
Yep, I remember all these companies.
Right. There's a trend here.
Yeah.
And that's really where I started to create a network that is still with me to this day. And the gentleman, Robbie Little, who owned the company at that time, left and went on to start a boutique company after he left First Look and called me to join him. And that's really where I learned how to executive produce, to run a company, and really started to take a much more active role and you know, had that epiphany that I'm going to put filmmaking to the side. I don't have the patience. I don't have enough talent. There's a lot of talent out there. And I was finding, you know, satisfaction and a real challenge in this space. I love traveling. It includes a lot of travel, meeting very interesting people. And I found myself in editing bays and in conversations with writers and directors on creative points. And I found that there was a creative outlet because you were respecting the audience, the distribution landscape with the creative element of films. And still to this day, I mean, I go to sets, I'm in editing rooms, we give a lot of notes to filmmakers.
Well, because you have the passion and love of filmmaking. That's why
we're here.
Not all distributors do. You know that, right? I mean, you know, a lot of people just love the whole business side and they're not really passionate about the filmmaking side.
I think we're better, but, you know, I'm biased, of course. But I am certainly at heart a major film buff. That's how this all started, right? The little kid watching movies, and remembering lines and recording the best quotes of Ferris Bueller's Day Off and other films of my youth.
So your path was similar to mine in that I always wanted to be a filmmaker, like a producer and director ultimately, but I accidentally ended up in distribution because that was the only job available, not even really knowing what distribution was. And I always say that's probably the greatest thing that ever, that mistake was the greatest, that is the greatest mistake that ever happened, is that I sidetracked into distribution. I spent 26 years there before I even stepped onto a set. But that worked out well because when you understand distribution, it makes filmmaking a lot more, viable. Let's just talk for a second about what is going on in international. Well, you do both domestic, US, Canada, and international. So you're doing a lot of the international markets. What markets are you going to these days?
The film markets that we attend, you mean, or the markets that we have distribution partners in?
Let's start the ones you attend, the actual markets.
You're right. So as I said before, we do travel quite a bit for our side of the business. It is important. And so our year starts off in January. So Sundance is in January. February is the Berlin Film Festival and the European film market. So we head to Berlin in February. March is Hong Kong. So we attend Hong Kong. My colleague, Charlotte, my sales exec, just returned back.
Film Mart.
From Film Mart in Hong Kong, April historically had been MIP TV, which was a television-focused market in Cannes. And for many years, we attended. It was on the tour, as we joke. But less people were attending over the last 8 or 9 years. They've moved it to London, I believe, after Berlin. And I don't know how well it was attended. I did not go. So we don't attend MIP TV anymore, and it doesn't exist in Cannes anymore. So April, Tribeca's in April, so we may have a representative in Tribeca.
That's a festival, obviously, but is there
There's no major
business?
Market that we attend in April.
Right.
But we're busy getting ready for Cannes.
Right.
Cannes is in May, and that's kind of our Super Bowl. That's the biggest market for us outside of AFM.
So let me just clarify for the audience that doesn't know. So there's the Cannes Film Festival, but you're talking about the Marché du Cannes, which is the market which goes on at the same time as the festival.
Right. It's happening simultaneously in Cannes, and it overlaps with the festival. So I attend screenings, and we have filmmakers that are at the festival having meetings with us and vice versa. But it is a major event. The whole film community, both studio and independent, go to the south of France for 10 days and conduct business, drink rosé, and celebrate cinema, which is great.
And pay for overpriced croissants.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's a big deal for us. It's a big investment for us.
Yep.
We all go. We try and have the best presence as we can and conduct business. There's a lot of pressure, but yes, it's enjoyable. There's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
And then, we come back from Cannes in May. And the summer, sometimes we'll have a couple festivals. There's something in Budapest called NATPE Budapest, which is a Central Europe-focused market. We attend maybe every other year as need be. We come out of the summer and we all head to Toronto in September for TIFF, for the film festival in Toronto. And there was never an official market simultaneously with TIFF, but we all went and treated it as a market anyways.
Right.
And now they are organizing a more official market
in
the future. So
they have a name for it? Is it going to...
I don't remember if they have a name, but they've managed to get some grant money from the government, quite a bit, I believe.
Right.
And then October, we head back to Cannes for MIPCOM, which is another kind of TV, video
I call it a streaming market now.
Yeah. And MIPCOM's great. It's 4 days. You spend, 4 or 5 days in Cannes, and you conduct a lot of business in that short period of time. And then November is another Super Bowl. It's our American film market here in LA, and that's also enormous for us.
Yeah. So
and then everyone just kind of disappears in December.
Well, it's a lot of... They need a break.
Yeah.
They need a break.
We're pretty exhausted by that point.
I just want to say about Cannes. So the first time I went to Cannes, and I've been to MIPCOM and Cannes, like you. I mean, it's funny. You say I love to travel, and I say I can't stand it anymore. Just after a while, you do so much of it that you just you get tired of it. But I remember when I moved to San Diego, and you live in San Diego now too, and people would say, "Oh, wait till you get to Cannes. Wait to see the beach." Not people in Cannes, don't be offended by this, but I said, do you understand where we're coming from? Like Southern California. Do you know what the beaches where we live look like?
Yeah, we're pretty lucky.
We're very
Diego.
lucky.
The
Yeah,
beaches in San Diego are pretty nice.
French Riviera is beautiful. I mean, it's obviously beautiful, but we also live in a beautiful place too.
We're very lucky.
Yeah. Okay, so let's just talk about now the business of indie filmmaking in terms of the distribution side. So you're representing a lot of indie films. I know, I've seen your lineup. So let's start with acquiring films. Like, what do you look for? Just because most of the listeners will be indie filmmakers, you know, trying to figure out how to navigate distribution. So they're going to be knocking on your door. They already are. You get hundreds of people, maybe thousands, sending you their films. Is it hundreds or thousands?
Well, Film Mode's been around almost 10 years. We, on average, acquire 5 to 10 films a year. So we have a library of about 100 films right now. We're submitted. I actually haven't tracked it. We have a database. There's probably 6,000 entries in there. 500
to 600 films
a
year.
Some months it's more. You know, before Film Market, we're submitted more.
Yeah. And are these all feature length or are some of them shorts?
When we get a short, we don't even track it. So we just say, yeah. So these are all feature length, either script, a finished film, partially finished, a package that's about to go into production. It's various stages.
Right. So how do you decide what is I assume obviously you want finished films in order to distribute them, but you'll get involved with, development.
Not necessarily, because I executive produce as well, and
right.
I produced a film with Scott Adkins last year called Diablo that's going to come out. So we get involved pretty heavily as well with the right package and the right filmmakers.
What do you look for? Like, what are you looking for? What makes it to the top of the pile and why when you're getting that many submissions?
Content-wise, which means what the genre and the ingredients of a project, we say we're commercially driven, but that's genre agnostic because you can have a commercial romance, a commercial drama, a commercial action film.
Right.
But we are commercially driven, right?
So let's just define that before we move on. Meaning that you are looking out, you're trying to identify who the audience is who would be receptive to this type of film.
Audience.
Right.
Broad.
If you don't feel it's going to play well to an audience, then it's not going to be a commercially viable film.
If it's too niche, it's very difficult for us.
Like a very niche drama, for instance.
Correct.
Yeah.
And the more niche you get, the bigger your cast and filmmakers have to be to overcompensate for the lack of broadness of the material.
Right.
Having said that, the genre that is most commercial is always going to be an action film with an actor of notability. That's why you see a lot of action films that have Frank Grillo, etc. But those have even gotten challenging because the market got saturated with them. So the distribution landscape is very selective, and it's become increasingly more selective as the choice for entertainment has widened, not only from independent films, but of course the choice of a consumer to entertain themselves at any given moment feels like an endless amount of content, both television, shorts, YouTube clips, music, video. It's endless. It's infinite. So for an independent film to get their attention is really, really difficult.
So, and you're saying that, your perspective is different than the filmmaker. So say young aspiring filmmakers or whatever who, say, yeah, there's a lot of product that they really have no idea just actually how much there is. Unless they've been to a market. You go to a market. I remember taking a director to a market one time, and the first thing he did, he walked into the thing. We only made it to the first floor, and he was completely overwhelmed by how many countries were represented, how many companies within each country, and how much product each one had. He thought he's coming here, he's going to be one of 3 films like his. We didn't get past the first 5 booths, and there were 10 already like his.
Yeah, filmmaker really needs to take the time to do their research and understand the landscape, the distribution landscape, because every filmmaker makes a movie so it can be seen. They don't make the movie so that no one sees it, right? Filmmaking is a delayed performance art. They make films so they can be seen. The audience is a part of that process. And if they haven't done the proper educating themselves, learning the distribution landscape, it's almost like they've missed a major element of the filmmaking process. And they should all attend film markets. And they should look on all platforms to see what's there and what's working, right? And how is it getting to the consumer? And if they open their eyes and they really make that a part of the process, then they can when they write that script or make the film or give it a title, and really try and make sure that they're doing things and taking those necessary steps to get to the consumer and the audience. That's ultimately what their goal is.
Yeah. I mean, I find that the big disconnect that filmmakers are super focused on art, obviously, because that's what they want to specialize in, and don't really connect at all with the business side, which we'll get to in a minute, all right? But I just want to finish the sort of thought that I started. So you get this enormous amount of product, and the first criteria is it's got to be commercially viable. And you can sort of get a sense of that just because you're very experienced with dealing with a lot of films. So now let's say you narrow it down from, say, 500 films a year to 200 that are commercially viable, but you're only going to take 10. So what would the next criteria be?
Depends at the stage of the project. If it's finished and they just need us to come on as a sales agent, that's very easy. We watch it and we discuss internally if we think there's an audience. And then at what level that audience is, what value we feel the film has in the marketplace, and we make a decision based on that. That's the easiest way to.
Yeah, because there's no guessing what it's going to look like.
If it's just a script, but we think the script is commercial and well written, then who's making it is really important. The director, the producer, the editor, the DP, who's going to be in it. All of that becomes incredibly important because that's all you have to go by to help you give some indication of that the execution will be.
Right.
If the film is already in production, then you can look at dailies, you can see already where it's headed. But most of the projects that come to us are either finished or in a process of being finished, or they're a script being packaged.
Right.
And that's when we come on as executive producers to help raise financing. You know, there's many times we get on the phone with the writer to help ways to tighten the script, make it a bit more appealing for the market, make it more appealing for talent to come on board. There's a whole art form to attracting actors to your script.
Okay, but you said the magic words. Then maybe you come on as executive producers to help raise financing. That's the struggle.
I say that in quotes. You know,
Okay.
I'm not signing checks, so don't.
Okay, so let's just demystify one thing. Whether it's finished or unfinished in development, whatever, what is the status of pre-sales these days for independent films and distribution? Are films getting pre-sales with minimum guarantees with checks?
Right. Well, pre-sales mean that you have taken a script and cast and a director, what we call a package. The film is not made yet. And we present the package to a distributor. And the distributor says, I believe in this package. I'm going to sign a contract worth $10,000. Just using a round number.
Right.
And when that film is finished and I've taken delivery of it, I will pay you the $10,000.
Okay, so they're locked into that commitment.
And I take that contract to a lender. And I say, I have a contract for $10,000 in Malaysia to make this movie.
Right.
And the bank gives you $8,000 in cash to help you go make the movie.
Yeah, but they also charge you interest and fees and stuff like that.
So when the $10,000 come in, they take the whole $10,000. They've made a $2,000 vig.
Right.
So that's kind of how pre-sales work.
Okay, what about the minimum guarantees on a finished film? So somebody brings
That's
you
different. That's how pre-sales
That's
work.
pre-sales, okay.
On a finished movie, I present the film to the distributor and they say they'll give me X amount, and we sign a contract, and they pay me when I tell them film's ready to deliver to them. But that's finished. They've seen the movie finished.
What if you take it as in your capacity as sales agent? Let's say you take it to a distributor who hasn't necessarily done a sale yet but believes in it. Would they give a minimum guarantee?
That's what I mean. I've taken it to a distributor in the UK and Germany.
Right.
And they've seen the movie, and they say, yes, we will acquire the rights to this film for you for $10,000.
Against royalties that are ultimate, maybe there could be overages, right?
Yes, that's an MG, minimum guarantee. It's against your share of overages, correct.
So is that happening these days? Are independent features, low-budget indie features,
yes,
no-name talent?
Yes,
okay, no-name talent.
Depends if the film is commercial enough and has an audience. So having said that, are the numbers big? Depends on the movie. Is it sold everywhere in the world? Depends on the movie. Some films are sold in some countries, but not others.
Okay.
And they go unsold.
So let's just play out one example, okay? Hypothetical, all right? I make a decent action movie, no-name actors, but good acting, well done, well directed, well produced, entertaining movie, but no-name talent, obviously. $500,000 budget, let's say. And it's saleable. You take it out. What kind of numbers would you expect on an MG? Again, on average, it's a good film. on average?
Does it
for
look
MGs?
like it costs $500,000, or does it look like it costs $5 million?
Of course, every filmmaker is going to tell you it looks like it costs $5 million.
So if the film looks like it costs $3-4 million, but it really costs 500, and it is action, and it works, and it's not too long, not too short, and it really is a watchable, solid film, the international value is probably worth between 200 and 500,000, and domestic's probably worth between 100,000 and 300,000.
Okay, so
right?
say total, let's say 700,000, just to average
That's
it
if
out.
the film is a solid.
Yes.
Solid.
That's what we're going on.
Solid.
Okay. Now, if that's the ultimate value, are you talking that would be the MG value?
That is what you're going to get from the world in MGs.
In MGs.
The chances of overages from a film like that with no one in it is slim. It could happen, but it likely won't happen.
We assume that the distributors who are picking that up around the world are getting their money back at least, because they're not taking too much risk.
You assume, but they have to recoup that MG and their costs.
Correct.
They all have costs to bring that film to market.
Here's where I want to ultimately go with this question. Filmmakers are super anxious, as you know, to get their films made, and they just have this burning desire to make a film. And they don't necessarily think much about the financial side of it, the recoupment side. Because first of all, they don't know the numbers going in, right? Like if you say to a filmmaker says, okay, I'm going to make a $700,000 film. And if you were to ask them, how are you going to get your money back? They're going to say, well, I'm going to give it to a distributor and they're going to figure it out.
No one in any profession sets out to make something without knowing what it's worth in the marketplace. Any other industry, you build a house, you build a car, you build furniture, you build stereo equipment.
Right.
Everything is backed into what it's worth in the marketplace. The only industry I can think of in the world that doesn't do that is the independent filmmaking space. Because for studios and large corporations and even boutique production companies all back into a budget based on its value in the marketplace. That's how budgets are made.
I love this. This is exactly what I talk about all the time. Why? Why does that phenomenon happen in the independent film space?
Because they don't want to be slowed down. They don't want to be told, don't.
Because they're artists and they just are focused on art.
I've looked them in the eye and I've said, maybe you should do this. Why are you spending there? They don't want to be slowed down. That same
because it's a dream. It's a sexy dream.
What's interesting and maybe not ironic, but I'll go back to the word interesting, is the same energy and persistence and sensibility that an independent filmmaker needs to get a film made and done is the same sensibility that may also be their worst enemy. And that's why filmmakers need to partner with someone that can counterbalance that. Because if you're focused on making the movie and that's your ultimate goal, I don't care what it's going to cost, this is what I need to get done, we'll figure it out later. You need a partner that says, wait a minute, this is the budget, this is why the budget is, this is the amount of money we have to get it done on this X date, it has to be made in 3 weeks, let's say, and you need that partner that you can trust and that is going to tell you the reality and is going to check you at the gate.
Yeah, the voice of reality. Right. Yeah.
Every step of the way. You need that.
And would you be that partner for some filmmakers?
No, that is an on-set producing partner. If you're just a filmmaker, if you're a director, let's say, or the writer-director. But
that's about staying on time and on budget when you're making your movies.
But
how do you know how much to make the movie for? Like if somebody.
That's why you partner with the producer that knows. And that producer has relationships with entities like us, and they've come to us. And I could become an exec producer, and I can give you this information, and I can discuss this information. But a lot of times it's almost too late by the time I come on.
But if I say, like, you and I are friends, Clay, and and I want to make a new film, and I say, Clay, I'm a little removed. I mean, I still dibble and dabble in the distribution side, but you're in it full time. I phone you up and I say, Clay, I'm thinking of making this kind of movie. You don't need to read the script. I'll give you sort of the overview. I understand the commercial viability. I understand all that stuff. What's going on in the marketplace. Could you give me a range? Could you say, Jeff, you're looking at 500,000 to 600,000 in worldwide revenue tops, or that would be the safe space. Maybe if you're lucky, you get to $1 million, but don't count on it.
Yeah, we do that. We don't do that for independent filmmakers we don't know. But someone like yourself or colleagues of mine and friends, we have those conversations all the time because market shifts, right?
Which what I tell filmmakers is called a revenue forecast, or an idea.
I guess you're talking about projections or estimates.
Correct.
Yeah.
So what's going on there? Are filmmakers? I mean, a lot of filmmakers don't even ask for that. They don't even care about that. But I get a lot of calls from filmmakers who say, "How can I get an accurate revenue forecast or just an estimate as to what the film that I'm thinking of doing is going to do?"
They need to go to AFM and Cannes and network and meet sales agents and other producers and other filmmakers and get into the community. No one owes this filmmaker who's done nothing my projections and expertise because he has a dream to make a movie.
Right.
They need to get themselves into the industry and start networking and become a professional.
Okay.
That gets them into the system, gets them into the community, right? Networking is incredibly important.
I totally agree with you, but the disconnect is that a lot of filmmakers say they don't want to spend their time and effort in that distribution side.
That's their prerogative.
They want to make the movies. They're artists.
Great.
But they're going to be
So am I.
starving. They're going to be starving.
I see our producer laughing over here.
Yeah.
Hey, I went to film school and I interned and I hustled. Maybe the precursor and the context of me sounding like an a-hole right now.
No. People want to know the truth.
I had a dream also of being a filmmaker. No one in the world owes you or me your dream come true moment, right? Anything in life you want, you have to go create your own luck. And I feel that I put in the time. I went to film school, I interned, I answered phones, I did runs around Hollywood, I worked for nothing, I worked long hours because I always saw it as an investment in my future of achieving my dream.
Right.
I never questioned it. If they wanted me to work late, great. That means I'm closer to achieving my dream. I'm going to meet someone else tonight. I'm going to do one more run. I'm going to maybe be asked to hang out for a coffee or a drink, which gives me an opportunity to chat with them. I started building my network very young because I was excited to be in Hollywood.
So now a new, young, aspiring, I teach a lot of people, aspiring filmmakers and students in film school. So one of them super inspired and good and really eager to do well comes to you and says, "What course would you set me on in order to be a successful career filmmaker? I don't want to just do one film and be done because I was irresponsible. What's it going to take for me to build my career and, maybe ultimately become Christopher Nolan or somebody like that? But, I'm willing to put in the time and go through the steps." What would that look like? What are those steps? Where would you start?
I don't think any successful filmmaker has the same trajectory.
But is there not sort of a path? Like, would you not, like you
and
just said...
The reason I say that is if you're a British filmmaker, you have access to grants. If you're a German filmmaker,
I'm talking American.
I'm talking American filmmaker
filmmaker
that's in a country without any financial help from any government
sitting
to help them.
within 50 miles of where we are in Hollywood.
That's a tough question to answer because there isn't a system here that creates an environment to give them an opportunity, unlike in Europe.
Or in Canada.
Or Canada.
Yeah.
Exactly. Especially Canada and Australia.
Yeah.
We don't have that here. So now you're really going off talent and the ability to try and raise some money yourself to prove and show your talent. So that might be, if you have enough money for a short film, it might be the short film to prove and show you have talent, get it into film festivals so that talent can then be seen by an audience. Mm-hmm. But still do it in a commercial sense, because if that filmmaker does a 10-minute drama, that's not going to help them get the next.
Well, that's just a proof of their ability to do filmmaking, right? But it's not.
And they have to realize the harsh reality that there is a lot of competition. So talented enough is not going to do it unless they have access to money. So sure, there's many moderately talented filmmakers that work consistently because they have access to financing, which enables them to continue to make movies.
Right. Now, are those movies generally making money? Like, are independent filmmakers making a living?
I don't know.
You said
I don't have the answer to that.
You said I don't, and then you said I don't, and then you paused and you said no.
And that data's tracked. Are independent filmmakers making a living? Okay. Some are.
Of course some are. generally speaking, I mean, this is a tough business. We all know this is a tough business for all the things we just talked about.
I like going back to the 1% rule in our business. The 1% rule in our business kind of goes across all areas. 1% of scripts get produced and pop. 1% of films find success. 1% of actors find a career, consistent career in acting. So I'm going to go with my 1%
Great.
rule.
Okay, I love that.
How's that?
Because I go with it all. I talk about the 1% thing all the time.
Yeah.
But it's a little depressing, isn't it? Only 1%?
Not for the 1%er.
Not for the 1%.
1%ers jumping in the street, having a great time.
So let's say it is 1%. Let's say 1% of, I can tell you statistically why only 1% of indie films are successful. I'll tell you later. But the question that the listeners are going to ask is, how do I become the 1%? Like, what gives me a better chance? Is it just luck? But it's, a combination.
If there was a route to the 1%, it wouldn't be 1%.
Okay, but here's what I say.
Here's
why I say it's 1%.
Yeah.
I say take 10,000 films a year. 5,000 of them are going to be terrible. They're just not produced well. So, nobody wants to watch a bad film. So that removes 50%. 4,000 of those other 5,000 aren't going to get proper distribution because filmmakers don't know how to do it.
Right.
Of the 1,000 that's left, only 800 of them will not get marketed properly. They'll actually get distributed, but they won't. Nobody will know about them. So you guys will put them, distributors will put them onto some streaming platforms, AVOD streaming platforms, but nobody will know. They just click through them really quick. They're sort of marginal artwork, marginal trailers. So of the 200 that's left, half will be successful, meaning 100 out of 10,000, that's 1%.
Having said all these sarcastic and cynical things, I still do believe that talent prevails. But not only will talent prevail, that talent also has to be met with some sort of balance, checks and balances, right? Because I have met extremely talented filmmakers that literally cannot get out of their own way, and they are preventing themselves from succeeding.
How so when you say not get out of their own way? Like, just
they won't surround themselves with the right individuals that will help them make the best possible film, right? And that can be anywhere from in the editing room, spending too much time and effort on not accepting a title change so that the titles change to something that's marketable and let the film have success. So they're stuck on a title that isn't going to work in the marketplace, so the film doesn't find success.
Right.
These are all real world stories, by the way. Talented filmmakers that have spent money incorrectly, so they're still talented, but they've ran out of money, so they can't get the film finished.
Yeah,
right.
I call that irresponsible.
And so if they had that checks and balances or that partner or that other capability, but a lot of talented individuals are so talented that that's what they're really good at, getting on set and getting their
telling
vision
a great
out.
Telling a great story.
That's why producers exist.
Yeah.
I've known very few filmmakers that can write, direct, produce, and edit their own movie and it be good. I have met them, but not very many of them.
Yeah.
And those individuals are truly magnificent, and even they have a tough time raising money sometimes.
Yeah, but generally you're focused either on the artistic side or the business side, and it's kind of dilutes you to focus on both. But just switching gears for a second, because we're going to run out of time and I want to get these questions in. A lot of filmmakers say to me that they've been totally screwed by distributors. And I'm for sure you've heard that and read it and seen all the Facebook groups and Instagram posts and all this kind of stuff. Why? Why do they say that? Is it true? What happens? I mean, I say that a lot of filmmakers don't understand how to do a distribution deal, and don't get represented well. But what happens? Why is that?
Well, without seeing those posts, I think every story could be different, right? Yeah,
but
I'm not
trends.
Denying there is.
There are trends.
What I'm trying to get at is when I've heard filmmakers complain and then I've sat them down and said, tell me your story. Like, why are you upset? Well, the sales agent this, and then the distributor, we didn't get reports, and what film was it? Like, so what was that contract like? When was that? Did they give you an MG for the film? Like, what's all the context that comes into play? I think the reputation and the generalization of this negativity comes from a lack of transparency and a lack of understanding how it all works. Are there sales agents out there that are not the most honest people or honest companies that may lack transparency? I'm sure there are. Are there distribution companies out there that are not so honest and lack transparency? I'm sure there are. At Film Mode, we only work with good distributors. which is something that we really highlight to our filmmakers. I'm not doing business with lower tier distributors or ones that have a reputation of not paying, not reporting.
But switching gears back to the IFTA, how does IFTA, does IFTA help monitor?
IFTA's not a police. IFTA's not police.
Okay, so anybody.
We're not a police station here, right? You can't start, I don't think you can even do that as a trade organization.
Yeah, it would be.
You can't police them, right? The contracts have legal clauses that give a filmmaker or a sales agent the capability. Not everyone has the.
But if enough filmmakers
to pay for
had the
lawyers.
exact same narrative of a distribution company and said none of us got paid, none of us.
Then tell everyone not to do business with that company. I suppose.
Sue them or something. Yeah.
That's up to them.
Right.
I think that there is another side of the negativity that if your film doesn't perform, you assume you're being ripped off. But there is the possibility the film did not perform.
Of course. I mean, not every film's going to perform. We
exactly.
know that. Yeah.
So as long as you've partnered with the sales agent that has a good reputation and reports and gives you the information, whether or not there's money owed, whether or not the film performed, you at least have that data. You have that information.
Right.
And sales agents are obligated to do that.
Yeah. Okay. Last sort of topic here is, what is the future of indie filmmaking?
No idea.
Okay. I mean, the big streamers, they're even struggling.
I can tell you the future next week.
Well, okay. I'm going to say, let me premise that by saying, I believe there will always be, as long as humans want to be entertained, as long as the human beings, we don't enter the world of the Matrix where we're all hooked up to machines. Right. As long as we're human and we have the desire for entertainment, there will always be a need and a desire for indie films. I think the challenge always has been and is getting greater is distribution and access to audiences, because a lot of the big companies are vertically integrated and have locked out a lot of the indie film community. I'm not sure why, but I guess they just internalize it, make their own product, and they feel that's a better business model. So I just feel like maybe there needs to be a new model. People say distribution, indie film distribution is broken. I say, no, it's not broken. It just never was operating properly because indie filmmakers don't focus enough on distribution. As soon as they start doing that, there could be a whole new trend. But I still believe that filmmakers will always have the desire to tell their stories, and that there will be audiences out there who want to hear the stories. It's just getting to them. It's making the connection between the good filmmaker with the good story and the audience member who actually wants to hear it, which is all marketing. It's all distribution and marketing. And right now we're seeing that that's by and large controlled by the big streamers and studios, as it has been for, decades. I mean, the streamers is a new thing. So is AI going to change that? I mean, the good news is we have access to the entire world market now. The bad news is it's hard to get anybody's attention.
Right.
So, do you have thoughts on that? What are you thinking?
I do believe talent will prevail. And
talent has to be seen. Like the greatest filmmakers in the world, if they're not distributed well, nobody's going to know that they made the greatest film.
In my career thus far, when there's truly someone talented as a filmmaker, their material gets through.
I'll bet you there's hundreds, if not thousands of people who are going to be listening to this episode and saying, I am super talented.
But just because they think they're talented doesn't mean they are.
But they might be. They actually might be.
If they're able to get a movie made and the film is remarkable and commercial, it will get through.
What I'm saying is, even if they get it made, getting it through seems to be a big challenge. Getting it through. Like meeting the right distributor, getting the right deals.
You have to go to AFM and Cannes and Berlin and meet. You got to work it.
You got to work it.
You have to get out there.
Listen, I don't disagree. I don't disagree. And, you do all the right things. Listen, I'm going to tell you just from my business experience, it's very important to be persistent, to hardworking, to try to do the right things. But once in a while, luck doesn't hurt. Getting a lucky break, right time.
Yeah, luck, 100%. I do believe you create your own luck. And what that means is
you put yourself in a situation.
You do enough proactive measures, right? And you get yourself out there, like you said.
Yeah.
You're creating opportunities that luck could flourish.
Correct. At least you're in the game. Right. You're putting yourself in the environment.
If you stay at home, luck's not going to come find you.
Right.
You do have to create a situation where luck can happen. And that I do believe in. I do believe. So when I say you create your own luck, you create the situations where luck can happen.
Yeah. So my dad used to say this expression, and it's kind of a negative expression, but it has a positive outcome. He used to say, if you want to get hit by a big truck, you got to go play on the highway. And it's like,
I like that.
You like it, but the concept of getting hit by a big truck is not, you know.
But you remember, that's a very memorable
right. So
saying.
he would
I like
say,
that.
you want to get hit by a big truck, go play on the highway.
Yeah.
Because he was a real entrepreneur, got his hands dirty all the time, which means put yourself into play. Get out there.
You have to.
And sometimes it's not comfortable. Playing on a highway is not fun. But you want to be there, you gotta be there in the highway. So and I agree with you.
Are we ending on a truck?
No,
getting hit by a truck?
We're going to end on a very positive note. I mean, well, first of all, that was a positive way of him saying, leave the confines of your comfortable environment, your home, like what you just said. Get out there. Go to a market. Listen, markets, as you know, you go to tons of them, can be super intimidating for a first-time filmmaker. And, you know, there's a way to do it. You guys at AFM do great panels on that.
Most film markets have some sort of filmmaking
introductory
element and panels and educational
but also
element to
you
it.
do a great video. I've watched your video of how to do a market, like plan meetings, don't just show up, you know, like
that's right. I did kind of a how-to attend the AFM. That's available on YouTube, I think.
Absolutely. You don't even have to register. And that's really helpful for a first timer, because it can be super intimidating to go there, especially if you're going alone. It can be lonely and awkward because you don't know what to do. And you got to make meetings. You got to take yourself out of your comfort zone sometimes, because your comfort zone is this confines of making art, right? And you're super good at it. But now you're going into networking. You're going into some distribution discussions or, revenue forecasts.
That's part of it.
It is a very big part of it, but it's not comfortable for everybody. So you did say earlier, find somebody who maybe you can associate with who is good at it and let them be comfortable with it and partner, collaborate.
Right. I think that's important. Filmmaking is a collaborative process.
Yeah, and I agree. I always say to my students, a lot of them, I'm teaching in the film school, but it's funny, I'm teaching the business aspects of filmmaking, which a lot of students aren't really that interested in. So sometimes I think maybe I should be teaching in the business school. And then I say to my film students, okay, I'm going to teach you how to do a budget, all right? I'm going to teach you how to do a tax credit. I know you're not going to actually want to do that because you just want to focus on directing and writing and all that fun stuff, right? But it has to get done. So here's an idea. Leave the film school, walk across campus, and meet somebody in the business school.
Good idea.
Meet like somebody who's a marketing major, somebody who's a finance major, somebody who likes to do spreadsheets and likes to talk about tax credits, and partner with them, create a team, collaborate. Now you're drafting off their skill set, they're drafting off your skill set. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. It's a good advice.
Because otherwise you're going to be, even if you do this stuff, you're not going to be enjoying it.
Yeah.
So
but they need to know about it.
I think they need to know.
That's what's important. They just need to know about it. They need to understand it because it comes into play for all or most independent films.
Right. Okay, here's how we're going to end, because I really appreciate you taking the time to come and share your thoughts, and you've been very honest, and I appreciate that. You get to do a plug for your company, because there's going to be thousands, hopefully tens of thousands of filmmakers who listen to this podcast and are looking for credible distributors and sales agents to represent them. So why don't you tell us about your company and why they should deal with you?
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to plug our YouTube channel, right?
Okay, sure.
We're all trying to grow our audiences. So
Sure.
We have a Film Mode Entertainment YouTube channel, which has all our trailers and clips from our films. And maybe in the future we'll have more content, maybe some educational videos on there. But I do want to grow the audience there. And we have Instagram and Facebook. It's all Film Mode Entertainment.
How many movies do you have on that channel now?
Well, it's mostly our trailers. It's probably, there's trailers, and then our films are distributed with a lot of other domestic distribution companies. We do a lot with Grindstone and Lionsgate and Saban, and there's many others as well. And I think what's important to know about Film Mode is that we are filmmaker friendly. So despite my tone on some of the questions, we really think of ourselves as a filmmaker friendly company, and that means we collaborate, we are transparent. We do help on the creative. We've worked with a lot of first-time filmmakers. And I think something that's very important for aspiring filmmakers or for filmmakers that have a film looking for their first sales agent, do some research. You can go on our website. You can see who made the films we represent. call those producers and see what their experience was. I'm more than happy to suggest and invite filmmakers to contact other filmmakers we've worked with and do their due diligence. They should do that with any sales agent they sign with. They should really know who they're going to partner with, because we do become a partner. We're on the same side trying to get an audience for your film. It's almost 10 years. I've been at this for 30, and we're still going. So I want to wish everyone the best of luck. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. We're still kind of pulled back in because of how exciting it is. And at the end of the day, we love movies.
That's a great ending.
Yeah.
So I just want to thank Clay Epstein. Thank you for being my guest today. It was very informative, and appreciate you. And to all you filmmakers out there, if you didn't hear the message, I'm going to summarize it and say, Clay and I both agree that if you want to give yourself the best fighting chance, learn about the business. Know what's going on out there. Learn about it. You don't have to do it all. You just have to understand what has to get done, and then you got a better chance. So good luck.
Thanks for having me, Jeff.